Kirby's Dream Buffet was just announced. And it is looking pretty good, it looks really fun. I mean, it was a nice surprise. Not a surprise in the sense like the ending of a direct, but it was a small game announced that I was like, oh okay, I want to try it out, I want to play it. I think what I like the most about it is like how aware of Kirby's cuteness HAL Laboratory is. Like they know exactly how to use the character to maximize cuteness in each of its games. But more important than that, when I saw that announcement for Kirby's Dream Buffet, I actually thought about other Nintendo exclusive eShop games in the Switch era, because I think we saw tons of very interesting games published by Nintendo in this generation, from other developers, sometimes developers that usually work with Nintendo like HAL Laboratory, but sometimes, most of the time, with indie developers. If you're not sure, I'm talking about games, for example, I think the best and the most famous example is Snipperclips. Snipperclips is this amazing co-op game on Switch that came out on release. If you bought a Switch during launch, you probably remember Snipperclips, because we basically had 1-2 Switch, Breath of the Wild, and Snipperclips. So it was basically the second best option after Breath of the Wild when you bought a Switch. And really, it was super creative. It was a game that managed to create the characters and the gameplay, and everything made sense in a way, because the mechanics that they created, everything was designed around that. But Snipperclips is not the only one. I think we had a lot of other great games. For example, Good Job is a great example, Part-Time UFO from HAL Laboratory also, The Stretchers, Flip Wars, Box Boy and Box Girl, and the fantastic and super interesting Cadence of Hyrule. That last one is super special because Nintendo actually provided one of their biggest IPs to a smaller team, to an indie team, to actually develop a crossover with their own franchise. So, and the final result is just fantastic. But in general, I just like how experimental some of this stuff look, you know? It's like, not every game has to be a AAA. We can produce those smaller games, even though Nintendo is a gigantic company, they can publish those smaller games that maybe inside their studios Nintendo would never develop a game like that, but they saw someone developing and say, hey, I like that idea, I want to publish that. I think that's simply amazing and goes to show that they are actually going out of their way to find those different and new experiences for the Switch. It's funny, but I think the only company that comes to my mind that made something relatively similar is EA, with EA Originals. You probably heard about EA Originals. It's like this fantastic project where EA actually fund and publish a lot of indie games. So those smaller developers that actually don't have a big publisher behind, and then receive some money to actually give life to their ideas. I think it's just fantastic, and it is surprising that it is coming from EA, because we are used to expect the worst from EA. We know a lot of the stuff that they did in the past is kinda sus, so usually you don't expect the best, but I can't complain about EA Originals. And in the case of Nintendo, it goes to show that despite some of the weird decisions that we see in the business side of things or in the legal part of the company, Nintendo still is a company with a lot of people inside who actually respect and give a lot of freedom to the developers, to the people that actually love and create those games, and that is simply amazing. But not everything is perfect here. I actually think there's something a little bit wrong with these games. I get the impression that after the initial release, after the initial announcements, when these games are usually shadow dropped in a direct or another presentation, they're kinda forgotten. There's a possibility that when I mentioned some of these games, your reaction was like, oh, I never heard about it, or you heard about it in a specific direct, but then you completely forgot about it, so you never bought it, and you find the concept like interesting at the beginning, but then you never heard about it again. And at first my initial thought was that Nintendo was not putting those games on sales, because I don't remember seeing a lot of those games in sales. But then I did a little research, and actually they did put those games on sales. The frequency of those sales is not perfect, but they actually put those games on sales. And I think this is important because those games are not like Mario, like Zelda, like Pokemon, series that can basically sell itself. but these are new IPs from small developers, so they need a little push, they need something special to be on the top of the eShop. And we know that a lot of indie companies are aware that this strategy of putting those games on sales to get more attention actually works a lot of the time. Okay, we are talking about sales, but I think the overall issue is that Nintendo's strategy actually don't work very well for smaller games, for smaller projects. It works perfectly with Zelda, with Mario, with Pokemon, because they want to keep those games valuable. So they keep them at maximum price at all times, and they know that it will keep selling because those brands are super valuable. People always want to buy the new Pokemon, the new Zelda, the new Mario. It doesn't matter how many years has passed from its original release, they still are selling those games. So from a business perspective, I can understand why they act like that. But this doesn't help for smaller games. The smaller games need recognition, they need to be discovered. So they could do something like, for example, a Nintendo eShop package. So you buy this package for a special price, and then you can access 2 or 3 games from these eShop exclusives. It's already a super simple way to actually put these games on the spotlight, to actually, oh, maybe this person is interested in this one and on this one, and then it makes it easier to get people into these games. And not only that, but it can make people more aware that these are Nintendo published games. You know, I think Nintendo has to make it a little more obvious that they are actually publishing these games because they were interested in that concept. Again, it's similar about EA. EA Originals, the name EA Originals is actually a game that puts the brands in the forefront. So they are saying, we, EA, we the company are actually behind this. If Nintendo did something similar, I think it could work even better because Nintendo means a lot in the gaming world, it means quality. And again, talking about sales, I think sales should be more frequent for these games because they do not have physical release most of the time, so it's important that they are appearing on the digital store. And not only that, but a lot of the time Nintendo put those games on sales together with other big names like ARMS, Donkey Kong, Zelda, Mario, and because it's so rare to see Nintendo putting a sale on those big names, they kinda overshadow everything else. So just make a different sale for these specific games, give them a brand, give them a name. In general, what I'm trying to say is that to make these games even more successful, even more known, Nintendo could put a little more effort as a publisher. A semi-related situation to that I found kind of funny is with this masterpiece called DC Superhero Girls. I don't know if you guys remember these games, it actually appeared in a direct and it is published by Nintendo. Now, let's be honest here, this is a game for kids. It is a game specifically focused on a niche. And it is not a game with a gigantic budget. So most of the time we don't see companies asking for a full price on a game like that. A game like that it is inspired in a cartoon, for example. But because Nintendo is publishing the game, if you go to the store right now, it actually is $60 and it rarely goes on sales. And I think this actually hurts the game. If it was any other publisher, it would probably be like $15 and would sell a lot more. But again, it seems that for Nintendo, all their games, it's on the same basket, it's the same strategy. And that's what sounds weird to me. And hey, it's not only about the small franchises, like for example Xenoblade. Xenoblade is already pretty big right now, although it is niche, of course, compared to other big names. But I think one of the issues for a game like that is that if you want to get into the series right now, you'll see that all the games are $6 right now. They never go down on price. And it's a super complex game. A lot of people are afraid to get into the series to actually make that investment and don't like the game. So I think in a specific case like that, when Nintendo is trying to always keep the price at maximum, they are like putting a gigantic gate for people that are not, they're kind of the fence if they will enjoy the series or not. And they are probably losing customers for future release, like what is happening right now. Xenoblade 3 is just coming out and a lot of people are looking for 1 and 2. Of course, I'm just guessing that Nintendo is the one responsible for all that. I think they are, I'm pretty sure that they are. maybe could be something related to the developers, we are not 100% sure. And beyond that, I want to recognize that these smaller developers are already super lucky to actually get Nintendo attention and to actually get a big company like Nintendo publishing them from the get-go. That's undeniably amazing. But I think Nintendo has to make a little more effort in the publishing department to actually make people get to know more about these games and to actually make those developers successful enough to develop some sequels or some other games with similar concepts, and then people already know about the other game so they can actually buy it. Now, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about all of this. If you guys actually enjoy those games, if you didn't know about these games, and if you think that Nintendo is actually promoting them enough, or if they deserve a bigger spotlight, which is basically my opinion. I'll make sure to read your comments and to leave an answer if I have something to say. So that's it from me, guys. Until next time, bye!